Good morning everyone, and welcome back to Craft Eccentricity. And today I've decided to make a card. Yes, if you saw yesterday's video you will have seen it was a surprise creation design team haul, and it came with mini albums and little cute shakers. So what I'm doing today is taking a couple of the dies from the mini album, which I've already done, and I've cut my paper because I'm trying to be organised. And we're also going to use the mouse, which is this one. You get bows as well if you want to use them, and make this into a flat shaker on a card, because as you can see here it's got a back piece which would turn it into a tag, and that would look like that if you cut it, and obviously you put your ribbon or your twine through there. So what I'm doing with mine is just cutting this section off so that it will go flat to my card. So that's what we're using, and I'm going to show you the pieces that I've organised myself with so far. Right, I'm going to be using Snap Click Supply digital papers, and this is the Cartabella God Bless America pack. So 4th of July, and here we go. That's going to be my base piece, and that is using one of the mini album dies. Now I used the banner strip and printed it, you know, quite central on my cardstock, so that when I trimmed it white I'd end up with my little flag swag down there. And then my next piece is the actual flag, and I sized it so that I could crop it, but I want to pop it up at the top there and give it an even border, which if I look over at my camera would kind of be up there. So I've got plain white sides, which is all right by me, but I've got my little swag, and I've got that's going to come up on foam, and I'll go off camera and just put my foam pads on. Now for my mouse, as I said, it's supposed to have a hangy back, so I'll put that there so you can see the difference, but I've cropped it off. That's my piece of acetate for my shaker. Now if you were going to do it as a hang tag you would leave it whole, but I've cropped this so that it's going to fit in there, and I might even have to crop a little bit more off, or maybe not. I think I managed to get it right. So that's going to be my frame section for my shaker. And then the base of my shaker, if you watch my channel you know I love Dollar Tree foam board, and I love it because it goes through and it cuts and it doesn't squish or stretch like softer foam does. So that's one of the reasons that I like it. And this is going to be glued straight down onto my card, and then the frame and the acetate will go on top. So I'll basically be putting these into there. Now I'm going to be using, I hope it's showing up, the silver sequins, which are stars in this tube. I think I've got other stars in here, but I quite fancy being a little bit more plain because there's a lot of colour in the card, and just going with my silver ones. And then I also printed this from the same pack and cut it out using the mouse head, and that is basically what will go under there to say that it's the 4th of July. Right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put my foamy pads on, and then we'll put that shaker together. Right, so I've put my base together, and that's up on a bunch of foam pads, as you can see there. And the next thing that I need to do is glue down my 4th of July piece, and kind of decide by using the top of my mouse there if I want it at a jaunty angle on the card, or if I want it kind of like straight up. And don't know, I think I'm going to have it jaunty actually. So I need to put some excuse my throat, some glue on the back of there, and I'm just testing to see if my glue works off camera. So I'm just going around and around and around, a little bit in the middle, and the rest of it will squidge up to the edges as I place it down. So if I think about how my mouse head is going to be, I'm going to kind of place that there. and that's going to dry in position. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my Dollar Tree foam, and I don't know if my camera is going to show it. You get a lovely smooth side, which is the bit that was in the dye. And then, you know, just like your regular paper, when it goes against your plates, it's a little bit rough. And it's basically the rough bit that you want to go down there. So I'm going to try and get that even. And I might not be able to see even on camera because it kind of like shows edges that are not really visible, if you know what I mean. Depends on the angle of my camera, I think. But I'm going around with some glue. Hope that you can see that. And then that is going to stick to my card on the top there. Let's bring that over and position it. I'm trying to think where my mouse would be in the scheme of things. Probably there. I think that's it. As you know, you can see more than I can. Get that little bit of extra glue off. And Dollar Tree foam board does stick down relatively quickly. So it's foam within a paper backer. I mean, it could be that I'm sort of like slightly more over there than I should be, but never mind. Right. Now, the next thing I want to do is pop my sequins in, because sometimes I've actually put a lid on a shaker and totally forgotten that bit. So I've just taken the lid off my pot there, and I don't want to put too much in, just enough. You still want to be able to see the 4th of July when the person gets the card and they're holding it upright. Okay, just screw the lid back on there, otherwise I'm going to have a terrible mess. And these tubes are from Walmart, so as you can see, I've got lots of these tubes. Goes all the way down. I've got towers and towers of tubes. I mean, if I counted them, I've probably got 60 with different embellishments, charms and sequins in them, and they're really great space savers. Right, so that is going to be drying there, and you'll have noticed I didn't put my sequins right to the edge, because that little bit of glue that I've just put down on my foam board might be a little bit wet, and I don't want my sequins getting stuck to the edges. So that is drying. I'm just going to pause now and get my scruffy mat so that we can do that. Right, so I've got my little scruffy mat, I've got my frame, and I've got my piece of acetate. So I'm going to pop my piece of acetate down there, and I hope that you can see it. And then I'm going to turn my frame over once again to the rough side, because we all know what our used plates does to cardstock. And I hope that you can see this. I'm just tracking around with a very small amount of glue. I don't want to put a huge amount down, and the reason for that is you don't want a bunch of glue squeezing out all over your acetate, because it dries kind of cloudy. Right, so I've got my glue down there, as you can see, and I'm now going to pick up my mousey, holding it around the edges there, and hopefully I'm going to get it in place. Right, now what I do is I use a really old die. This one is, I don't know what it is. Oh, Sizzix Sculpting Daffodil and Narcissus. I've had this for years. You can see how many times I've used it. Look, the foam is buckling, but you don't actually need foam in a steel rule die to use it. It's just there, you know, to look attractive and to keep your fingers safe, I think. But I've used dies that don't have foam in them. But anyway, it's a nice weight without being overly squashy. And I'm just going to pop down on 5 minutes on top of there, and I will be back. Right, so my mousy head, I think, is sufficiently stuck down, and you can see the shiny bit there that is the acetate. And now I'm just going to take my glue and apply it to my Dollar Tree foam. So I'll just pop that off to the edge for a second so that you can see this. And exactly the same as we did there on the acetate. You can put a fair amount on the ears. I wouldn't go right to the edges though, because it will squish out. And then just track really delicately around the edge. I mean, obviously you want it to be a good seal because you don't want your sequins to fall out. But at the same time, you don't want so much that it's going to come squishing through and cloud up your acetate. Right, so now all we have to do is position it and put on that lid. Now, I'm hoping that I'm straight. I think that's it. I'm just going to hold it up to myself to look. Right, I think that's a little bit better. Now, I'm just going to pop my lid on again, my die. And it may have just shifted. That's one of the things you've got to be careful for when you're weighting items. There, and I will be back in 5 minutes. Okay, so there we have our 4th of July most famous mouse, and you can still see the 4th of July in there. It's you can shake it, but of course my camera is going to go blurred. And just enough sequins so that you can still see what it is. Really quick, really easy. I hope that you enjoyed that. And I'm going to be back up tomorrow and we'll make something else from that surprise creation haul. I thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really do. I appreciate every single one of you. And as usual, all links below. Bye.